Others in light of the ritualistic removal of one of the signature superstars of his era, that being Mr. Kobe Bean Bryant. As the layers are peeled back on his life narrative, more and more is being exposed to the public, especially those of us who understand what we're looking at, that only proves as confirmation, at least in my view, that he was without a doubt an MK asset, a Monarch athlete per se, who was prepped and primed from his childhood to live out a scripted life. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Now, is there room for him to live an actual life within the script? No doubt about it. But he was a real life basketball Truman Show. And when his time came to an end, he abided by the script because that is what he was programmed to do. So now what I'm going to attempt to do over the course of this video is to show without a shadow of a doubt that Kobe Bryant was a Monarch programmed athlete. What does that mean? That means that he was under mind control for the vast majority of his life, pretty much from his birth, and that his parents were his initial programmers / handlers, as well as most likely his sisters playing a role in the ritualistic uprearing or raising of Mr. Kobe Bryant. Eventually he was passed to Mr. Jerry West and also Phil Jackson, of course, with his wife, Vanessa Bryant, also crucial as wives of celebrity assets throughout the entertainment sphere play as a handler. There's no doubt about it in my mind that she was trained to handle Mr. Kobe Bean Bryant, and she was an essential part of the script. She's also a witch. Just my view of it, just my perspective, as was he. Now, Kobe, in this very interesting portion from an interview, is going to lay out to the listeners and to the viewers how he initiated the disassociative state that he had to enter into before every game, what they call a quote-unquote pregame ritual, so that he could assume his alter ego of the quote-unquote Black Mamba, which, as I stated in the Kobe Bryant Pupil to Lucifer series, volumes 1 and 2, was his totemic creature. That was the quote-unquote serpent that was the teacher and the great sage for Kobe. But just pay very close attention here as he correlates himself to the great character that Russell Crowe played in one of the phenomenal films of the early 2000s, the film Gladiator. He's going to align himself to the character of Maximus Decimus Meridius. And he's going to note that right before Maximus engaged in many of his exploits in the gladiatorial arena, he had a ritual that he performed where he would grab dirt from the ground and rub it in between his hands. Kobe is going to give you the ritual that he performed before each and every game. So let's pay very close attention. Of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Sometimes we are so worried about what other people think about us. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, what if they think I'm crazy? What if they think I'm over obsessive or competitive? And what if this is like, you're too much? This is just not healthy for you to be thinking this way, right?
Yeah.
How did you get your mindset into this alter ego to be comfortable being Black Mamba? Like, how did that happen? It's a good...
Before Kobe speaks, once again, let me highlight that Kobe was a Luciferian, and in his view, he had to open up his quote-unquote pineal gland or third eye to be able to communicate with the spirits from the quote-unquote astral plane. He was an alchemist, as are most of the other prominent athletes in the sports world. Tom Brady, LeBron James, you name them. They believe in opening up those doorways and traversing in between the physical plane and the astral plane so that they can gain some sort of motivation, some galvanizing from the spirits of the astral plane so that they can ascend to greater heights. That's why they'll state that after a while, the game seems to move in slow motion for them. It's because they're operating on autopilot. It's an alter. It's not the actual them. Very similar to Beyonce and Sasha Fierce, so on and so forth. Michael Jordan and Air Jordan. The character of Air Jordan was an allusion to Heru. Or even if you've ever seen the Denzel Washington film, The Equalizer. He was Delta programmed, meaning he was a Manchurian candidate or a programmed assassin. If you notice, right before every fight scene, they'll do a close-up of his left eye, and the camera will pan into his left pupil. That was meant to convey that he was disassociating right before every combat scene because that is what he was trained to do. In many of the Jason Bourne films starring Matt Damon, there are also many allusions to him being Delta programmed, but I will have to go through each one of those movies in depth in other videos.
It's separation for me, you know, emotionally, to be able to put myself in a place where at practice or when I'm training or during games, I switch my mind to something else. switch my mode into something else, right? For me, it's the equivalent of Maximus Decimus Meridius in Gladiator picking up the dirt, smelling the dirt. It's go time, right? So that was my...
What Kobe is referring to is what's known in MK Ultra circles as a trigger. What triggers do is they bring certain alters to the forefront. Think of an alter like a file. Say, for example, if you were to enter into the subconscious mind of a person who was under the programming, if they had 30 files in their mind, each file would represent an alter ego. For example, the actor James McAvoy, he played Professor Charles Xavier in some of the X-Men movies. He did a film about split personality disorder called Split, in which he played a multitude of characters, because that is what people with multiple personality disorder suffer from. Now, someone like a Kobe Bean Bryant, I'm not quite sure how many alters he was programmed with, but one of them was certainly the quote-unquote Black Mamba sadistic character, that dark side character. That's why I state, and nothing against Lisa Leslie, but this is what Gayle King was trying to allude to, that he may have been a totally different person in other situations. And that scenario that he was placed in Eagle, Colorado, was certainly an allusion to another component of a programmed alter within him, playing out the role of Heru. He was another Heru, or Avenger, quote-unquote hero per se, or Zeus, as he was known as in Greece, the storm god, who had mastery over the eagle. The eagle, of course, represented by Zeus's young daughter, Hebe. In the same way, Kobe and Gigi were bonded psychologically and predetermined to die together so that they both could be cast as heroes to join the quote-unquote hero cult, the hypothetical Hollywood hero cult with Tupac and Bruce Lee, etc., so that they could become legendary figures. Kobe Bryant already understood that that was in the cards for him.
My mental switch. It was like an actor getting ready for a film. You got to put yourself in that cage. When you're in that cage, you are that character.
So, brother, did you hear that? Kobe is referring to a concept known in the acting world as being a quote-unquote method actor. You become that person. I'll probably be touching on this in another video. Michael B. Jordan has came out and acknowledged and admitted that he had to seek psychiatric or psychological therapy in the aftermath of playing Killmonger in the film The Black Panther, because he found himself becoming that person. He so deeply immersed himself into the character. Also, of course, Mr. Heath Ledger, who played the Joker in the Dark Knight film, he suffered from the same psychiatric or psychological disorder in the aftermath of playing that character of the Joker.
And then when you leave there, it's something completely different. But when I'm in that cage, bro, don't fucking touch me. Don't talk to me. Leave me alone. There used to be certain games, like, for like certain key games. I don't think I've ever said this before. This kind of makes me seem very psychotic, but whatever.
Now, brothers, also, I'm not quite sure if many of you noticed this. Those of you out there who are ardent Kobe Bryant fans should already know about this. But Kobe has what they call a lazy or sleepy left eye, which also is an indication of someone who was put through the programming from their childhood or from their youth.
I used to play the Halloween theme song over and over and over in my headphones. Pre-game. Seriously.
Now, even Kobe Bryant understands, and he knows that these are admissions that he can make now, well, at that time in the aftermath of his career while he was still on this earth, that he used to listen to the Halloween theme song before every game. He could not have said that back in 2004 or 2005 because people were looking at him as a quote-unquote rapist. So he knew that there were certain things that he could reveal and other things that he had to keep to himself because of how he would be perceived. But the character of Michael Myers in Halloween is an excellent example of disassociation, split personality disorder, paranoid schizophrenic, someone who has psychopathic tendencies because of their multiple personality disorder. Kobe Bryant may be alluding to certain things when he states that he had to listen to the Halloween theme song to initiate that trigger of becoming that sadistic person on the basketball court. That was certainly a part of his programming.
Seriously. And it was important that it was Michael Myers because the mask itself was void of emotion.
Now, brothers, did you hear that? He stated that the mask was void of emotion. Masks act as totems and triggers in MK Ultra. Objects like masks, chains, whips, claws, things of that nature, certain metals like gold, silver, jewels like rubies, emeralds, are all used as triggers. If you'll notice, you'll have certain celebrity figures who are also under mind control, who have what they call cat alters, where sometimes they'll wear a cat mask. R. Kelly was known for wearing a certain mask. He's someone who I've covered extensively on the YouTube channel, who's also not only under the MK Ultra programming, but he's also a handler and a programmer himself, which many times is the case. Nick Cannon is another example of someone who's an MK asset and who is also a handler and a programmer himself.
Void of emotion. It has nothing to do with pressure, it has nothing to do with hype, has nothing to do with camaraderie. Is stone cold killer.
So he stated it has nothing to do with camaraderie. So he's letting you know that within his programming, he was not meant to be a quote-unquote team player. That's why they brought in Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson is an expert MK sports handler. It was his job to bring together two of the NBA's most valuable sports assets, programmed assets, in Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant, and help them become a functional unit and win championships like he was able to do with a diamond level Monarch athlete in Michael Jordan in Chicago.
We'll listen to that song over and over and over again. That's when you know you better run, because
that's what a lot of people did.
Yeah, it's probably coming out.
It's going to be a tough night.
Story. Yeah.
Now keep in mind, if you've ever seen the film Halloween, it's basically about a young boy who killed his older sister when he was a small child and was taken away for psychiatric evaluation, escaped that psychiatric holding, and came back to the town that he was from and went about killing random teenagers for whatever reason. Now, does that mean that Kobe Bryant has certain alters or had certain alters programmed within him that made him homicidal or psychopathic or someone who was sociopathic per se? It's highly possible. I'm not going to attribute any murders to the cat, but I will say this. It certainly makes it far more reasonable that he may have gotten ahead of himself in that hotel room in Eagle, Colorado. And once again, as we've seen in other videos, the Eagle has a very important place in the overall life narrative of Kobe Bryant. That was a totemic animal for him. Once again, the eagle represents Zeus or Heru, symbolized by the falcon or the hawk or the eagle, a raptor-like bird. And also the eagle is the symbol for the mother goddess, the Shekinah. As I stated in quote-unquote Greek mythology, Zeus's young daughter Hebe is represented by the eagle. And we know that the situation that occurred with Kobe Bryant was in Eagle, Colorado. So all of this was a part of the brand building for Kobe Bryant. Someone who had a quote-unquote heroic figure at first. He had aspersions cast upon him. So what that necessitated was the creation of the alter ego, that anti-hero alter ego of the Black Mamba. That was all a part of the script. Okay, so now brothers, this is going to be the epilogue for the Kobe Bryant Monarch Athlete video. And I just want to establish that Kobe Bryant was raised not only within the craft, but also under the programming. There's no doubt about it in my mind. As I've already shown in the Kobe Bryant Alchemical Funeral video series, his parents have a very firm understanding of the craft. They agreed to raise not only Kobe, but all of their children up within the understanding of Luciferianism, as well as the MK Ultra program, particularly pertaining to Kobe Bryant. Without a doubt, he was a Monarch athlete. As we can see here, he's posing with his father, quote-unquote Jellybean Bryant, and his mother, who's most likely the great matriarch of the family, very deeply immersed in witchcraft. This is Kobe's dad, quote-unquote Joe Jellybean Bryant, wearing the number 23. As I always state, it becomes more and more apparent to me that notable athletes, especially in the N.B.A. who wear number 23, that's a signifier for some type of DNA manipulation or genetic manipulation, whether through himself or through his son. Maybe he was himself a monarch athlete who never fulfilled his potential, and through his bloodline he was able to raise up a son who was able to redeem what he was supposed to be, or he came into agreement with the government or whatever alphabet agency or corporate sponsorship is financially backing this stuff, because it's very clear that it exists. I have follow-ups on my Monarch Athlete series that are going to be coming down the pike on Steph Curry, on Draymond Green, etc. So as we can see here, Mr. Joe Jellybean Bryant with the number 23, he played for the Sixers. And I've already addressed what the relevance of the number 76 is in the series that I did on LeBron James and what his role was in this whole ordeal. The number 76 represents the great Capricorn, or the GOAT. So Joe Bryant was chosen to bring forth a chosen son. Now, I've shown this photo in another series. This is Kobe Bryant posing with his two sisters. We see the Infinity series of the Ouroboros serpent with the number 2 and 4. He's wearing the black t-shirt, of course. The black and white are alchemical, also Hegelian or Hermetic, the bringing together of opposites. In this photo, he's playing proverbial Asar or Osiris. His sisters are playing Aset and Nephthys, both the light aspect and the dark aspect of the mother goddess. They are symbolically providing their co-signature or their support. All of their power and magic is behind Kobe. Whatever he needs, they're going to be there to assist him in whatever way they can, ritualistically. But once again, in this photo, he's playing proverbial Osiris. Let's show that. Let's prove that. So, brothers, this photograph was taken in promotion of the film Selma, which was directed by Ava DuVernay. And we know wherever we find Ava DuVernay, Oprah is surely not far behind, because, once again, they are in a quote-unquote lesbian relationship. In the same way that top female actors in Hollywood back in the 70s and 80s, in order to get to the top, they would have to sleep with certain producers. Any female that you see Oprah Winfrey getting behind, especially to the degree that she gets behind Ava DuVernay, it's because they're playing the lick-a-lot-of-puss game. But either way, as we can see here in this photo, it's the same theme. This actor, David Oyelowo, I believe his name is, he's going through the Asar, Isis, Nephthys ritual, where they're giving him their co-signature. They're showing the powers that be through the photo that he's been sanctioned by the quote-unquote divine feminine. So, brothers, in this photograph right here is another example. They're getting behind Asar. They're showing that the divine feminine is supporting the quote-unquote divine masculine, as long as he does the same thing in return. He basically is the veneer or the facade for their true power. Behind the scenes, he must show obeisance to them. But notice, once again, they're posing for photos where they both grab one of his arms and put a hand on his shoulder. It's ritualistic. So, brothers, this is where they get it from. As we can see here, this is Asar in his goat altar as Khnum, because Khnum, or the quote-unquote goat god, is the soul of Asar or Osiris. And to either side of him are what? The quote-unquote feminine deities, Isis and Nephthys. That's what they're still doing in the modern day time. Once again, the quote-unquote belief system of the entertainment sphere, of the quote-unquote elite, is the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system. So now we're going back to the Kobe Bryant photo. Do you see it now, brothers? Same concept. He is the divine serpent. They are manifestations of the divine feminine. They are behind him because they know that he worships them. He worships the divine feminine to a certain degree. It was a component of his programming. Eventually, he finally was able to shirk off the influence of his mother and his sisters, but it was replaced by his worship of his wife. Now, brothers, this is further proof that the Bryant family, they utilized the tactics or the protocols of the MK Ultra program. I went over this in the other series about the alchemical funeral. As we can see here, Joe Bryant sitting on his lap may even be twin boys, most likely his grandchildren or his nephews. They both have their hair dyed blonde. They've both been put through the paces. I expect to see them either in the N.B.A. or the NFL in the next 14 to 15 years. Do not be surprised at all. Let's do a close-up. You see that, brothers? Both blonde-haired. And as I touched on in the Kobe Bryant Alchemical series, his mother is wearing the necklace with the alchemical sun on it. So she is a witch, as are all of the members of his immediate family, including him. Kobe Bryant was a witch or a wizard as well. So, brothers, when Kobe Bryant went to Lower Merion High School in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, he was given the number 33, or he chose the number 33. Why is that? Because 33 is for quote-unquote Christ consciousness. He was already predestined to end his life in the way that it ended. That's why he spoke about dying early. That was part of his overall script. So for those of you brothers out there who go back to the mid-1990s, you'll remember that this relationship was a big deal. This Kobe Bryant, Brandy Norwood relationship. And as I reflect back on it, it obviously was just manufactured advertising for both parties. It was not a real relationship. Like most relationships that are so public, it's manufactured. It's not real. So clearly, Kobe Bryant's parents hooked him up with Brandy Norwood's parents. Maybe they were trying to make a quote-unquote black boule marriage union, or some type of meeting of the families to amplify both of their portfolios, not just their children, but also their families. Because clearly Kobe Bryant's family was trying to control him monetarily, and he attempted to break away. That's one of the things that caused the fracture in their relationship, as well as Kobe deciding that he was going to marry Vanessa Lane, soon to become Vanessa Lane Bryant. I don't think that Kobe was ever truly interested in Brandy. Brandy was kind of cute when she was younger, but clearly she was not Kobe's type. There was something else that he was looking for. Maybe they did something together. Maybe they actually were romantic or amorous. Who knows? But just looking at them, they probably went out on a couple of dates, and Kobe was like, where are the cameras at? Can we just take a couple of photos and get this over with? Once again, this was a big deal back in like 96. This was a way in which we were going to promote Kobe Bryant's name early. So very clearly he was big behind the scenes already. They had big plans for him. So brothers, I just want to provide some context for the statement that I made about Brandy Norwood's parents being Luciferians as well, and both the Norwood parents and the Bryant parents trying to bring their children together to amplify their magical powers per se in Hollywood, because that's all Hollywood is about, is how much magic or how much of the force, quote unquote, you can generate. Here's a photo of Brandy Norwood and her younger brother, Ray J. Ray J became known a little bit after Brandy. Brandy was also a Star Search kid. That was one of the introductory avenues for Monarch singers or Monarch program entertainers, with Star Search. Brandy appeared on there, Beyonce, Martin Lawrence, Dave Chappelle, Justin Timberlake, Aaliyah, so on and so forth. They all knew each other on the circuit because they came from the same program. They came from the same kennel, per se. But as we can see here, it appears as though Brandy is comforting her brother. But this actually, once again, this is a ritualistic photograph. This is meant to be an allusion to ancient Kemet. As we can see here, this is Asar, painted blue, and behind him is his sister/wife, Isis or Aset, comforting him in the same way. These modern photographs are meant to conjure the same energies from ancient Kemet. Okay? Here's another photo of Brandy with her brother Ray J, aka the little devil Ray J. You see him throwing up the horned hand sign? There's a reason why Ray J started to become more and more notable in the Hollywood circles from the late 90s through the 2000s. He was someone who immersed himself within the craft. So that's how they climb up on the ladder higher and higher. Started to hang out with Mayweather, Eventually got linked up with Whitney Houston, who started out as a master to Brandy's apprentice, in the same way that Michael Jordan was master to Kobe Bryant as the apprentice. That's how Hollywood works. It works according to witchcraft rules. You have a master and you're the apprentice. You must follow their footsteps. So brothers, just to prove my point, this is a photograph of Brandy and her quote-unquote fairy godmother, Whitney Houston. The term fairy godmother is just meant to be an allusion to, and the role that she played in Cinderella, adjacent to Brandy, was just metaphorical for her real life role as the woman who Brandy was going to try to follow in her footsteps. And in Hollywood, all these female singers and actresses end up the same way. The older ones teach the younger ones to do what they do, and they learn how to do what they do from the masters who came before them. So when Brandy followed behind Whitney Houston, she learned how to snort coke and suck on penises, because that's what Whitney Houston learned from the generation that came before her. The Diana Rosses and the Minnie Ripertons and the Aretha Franklins and all them who came before Whitney Houston. So they passed it down. So brothers, I've used this photograph before. Once again, this is another allusion to the Asar and Aset dynamic. Ray J with his hands in the shape of the pyramid or the triangle. His sister playing the role of Isis or Aset behind him. If you pay very close attention, the necklace that she's wearing is clearly inspired by ancient Kemet, and the earrings that she's wearing are in the shape of pyramids. Right? See that? Here's Michael B. Jordan and Isaac Ray doing the same pose. They're all in the craft, all of them. And Isaac, aka Issa Rae, aka It's a Dude. There's a lot going on that we can only speculate about, but what I see clearly is what I report. So now, brothers, this is near the start of Kobe Bryant's career with the LA Lakers. As one can see, they already know what he's predestined to become. He has the quote-unquote divine orange light shining behind him, indicating that he's someone who will be elevated to Christ consciousness. As we can see, he's making the prayer hands. You see that? And he's standing to form a pyramid. And he's also wearing the orange tie. So Kobe already knew where his life was going to go. He just had to play it out according to the script. It says here, Kobe and the Lakers learned to play nice. In other words, the original coach, Del Harris, would not allow him to fulfill his destiny, so Del Harris had to go. They had to bring in another coach who understood Kobe Bryant a lot better, who was familiar with utilizing MK assets. Who better than Phil Jackson? Phil Jackson was the one who understood Kobe. But once again, look at his outfit. All black for Saturn, or at least the suit is all black. White for the Hegelian dialectic aspect, the orange tie, and the background is the quote-unquote divine orange. We know what the word orange means already, but let's reinforce that. Orange, political parties, color revolutions, the House of Orange. Orange being the only word in the English language depicting a color which adds up to 33 in gematria. Once again, the number 33 is for Christ consciousness, or finding God within you. We've already touched on this with Aleister Crowley. That's what the Crowleyite system is about. Finding quote-unquote God within you. So brothers, as I stated, in the magazine cover that we just read, what was implied is that the Lakers and Kobe were not vibing how they needed to vibe. Jerry West already knew what Kobe Bryant's script read. Kobe Bryant knew what his script read. So they had to get rid of Del Harris because clearly he was not going to be a part of the program. They had to bring in a coach who was going to be able to maximize Kobe Bryant, his gift, and help him fulfill his destiny as the quote-unquote hero figure of the LA Lakers and therefore of the NBA. So who better than Phil Jackson? And brothers, look at what it says here underneath Phil Jackson. It says mind games. Where's this from? Mind games. This was from a book that was written about Phil Jackson by an author named Roland Lazenby. It says, Mind Games, Phil Jackson's Long, Strange Journey by Roland Lazenby. What is that an allusion to? That's an allusion to Phil Jackson being an MK handler. He knows how to mentally manipulate his subjects or his assets. That being Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan are without a doubt monarch athletes. Scottie Pippen most likely was as well, or is as well, under the MK Ultra mind control. It would make sense because he was married to that chick Larsa, who herself is associated with the Kardashians. So that would make sense. But there's no doubt that Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, and Dennis Rodman as well, all monarch athletes. So now, brothers, I used this photograph in a video that I did a while ago, initially touching on the aspect of Phil Jackson as an MK handler over Kobe Bryant. This is him wearing a quote-unquote Grateful Dead t-shirt. He's also forming a pyramid with both of his arms, as well as his legs. And he's got his head slightly cocked to the side. He's smiling. He's showing you that he's the quote-unquote divine jokester. He's a member of the Royal Order of the Jester. That's why he was allowed to become the Laker head coach. He was the head coach of the Bulls for Baal and the Lakers, the Royal Order of the Jesters. When the Knicks wanted him to coach there, he said no. Why is that? Because it was not in the cards for him to coach the New York Knicks. He could preside over them and make money as an executive, but be the coach? No, because he knew he was never going to win a championship with his best player being Carmelo Anthony. Plus, the colors did not line up, the numbers did not line up. Brothers, everything that occurs in this three-dimensional realm that we dwell in is pre-written, pre-scripted, and predetermined. It's just that from our perspective, we have free will. From the celestial perspective, it's already understood what we're going to do. We're predestined to live out a certain role. It's just that from our perspective, we have free will. On the Luciferian side, high-level Kabbalists are able to gain insight into the fate of certain figures as long as they're born according to certain numbers, certain energies. You understand that? That's how they're able to control certain narratives. That's how they're able to control certain deeds and certain people. Phil Jackson is a very high-level Kabbalistic priest and an MK handler. Once again, pay very close attention. He has the divine clown on his t-shirt for the Grateful Dead. Let's get some understanding on that concept of the quote-unquote Grateful Dead and the clown of the Grateful Dead. So, brothers, what we'll find, of course, in any association with the clown is the number 13 for death and rebirth, or enlightenment through death. We saw it in the Joker film. We saw it with Kobe Bryant's demise and the number 76, 7 and 6 adding up to 13. We're also going to see it here with Phil Jackson, wearing the clown of the Grateful Dead. Let's see what it says here. Vibrationally in tarot, 13 is the death card. Think more along the lines of the band name Dead Can Dance or the Grateful Dead, celebrating the freedom that comes from letting go of what no longer serves. Brothers, that's why I stated, when you see at that ritual, Alicia Keys and Beyonce Knowles, they appear to be trying to hold in their laughter. It's because once you ascend to that level of a Saturnian, you worship the divine clown. So you laugh at death. Because once you reach that stage in alchemy where your body can no longer hold in your spirit, it's actually a joke to die. It's not something that they take seriously or view in a somber way. That's why I stated when Michael Jordan was on stage crying, he did miss his apprentice Kobe, but he was playing a role. He's playing the role of Pan or Saturn, the somber one or the sullen one. He had to ascend up those stairs to the pinnacle and share his quote-unquote divine light with the masses. That's also why I stated that when Kobe Bryant's wife, Vanessa, came down the stairs, it symbolized coming down the stairway to heaven She was walking down the pyramid steps. That's why he assisted her. He represents the new Saturn for her because Kobe Bryant is gone. So he's Saturn, she's the moon goddess, or the Sirius star, the dog star, the mother goddess. That's why she had her hair covering the right side of her face. He helped her down the steps, and then he had to ascend up the steps. Everyone who was allowed to speak at that ritual was only allowed to do so according to their rapport with Kobe behind the curtain. Not in front of the curtain, what the masses see, the fake smiles and laughs and handshakes, but behind the curtain. His relationship with his wife, his relationship with other divine feminine figures like Diana Taurasi and this chick Sabrina Ionescu, his so-called friend Rob Pelinka, who clearly is another one of his handlers, or was another one of his handlers, Michael Jordan. I'm sure that Phil Jackson declined the opportunity to speak because Phil Jackson does not seem to be much of a public speaker. He likes to stay behind the scenes. But let's read what this says here one more time to get an understanding of why Phil Jackson has the Grateful Dead clown on his t-shirt and why he was sitting like that to show what the t-shirt says. Vibrationally in tarot, 13 is the death card. Think more along the lines of the band name Dead Can Dance or the Grateful Dead, celebrating the freedom that comes from letting go of what no longer serves. Releasing old, outworn beliefs leads us to freedom, emancipation, liberation, rebirth, and transformation. Think Phoenix from the ashes. It is about the desire to change that flows through us in our own soul revolution. So Phil Jackson basically acted as a guide or handler to not only Kobe Bryant, but also Michael Jordan, to lead them to a higher level. That's why, once again, that's why Michael Jordan is called the GOAT. It's not just about his ability as a player. It's also about what he represents hermetically. You understand? Here at the bottom, we see the symbol for 13. We see the divine clown, and he has the sickle or the scythe. He is Saturn, the divine clown of death. So now, brothers, these are some covers from ESPN, the magazine, that we've gone through before, but for the sake of this series, I think that it's relevant that we go through them again. Here they're showing that Kobe Bryant and Phil Jackson are one and the same. They're just two aspects of the same consciousness. They're having a meeting of the minds. And notice that the word ESPN is in bright orange, showing you what? They're both illuminated. They both have Christ consciousness. They've ascended to the highest levels. Or Kobe is going to be shown how to ascend to the highest levels only with Phil Jackson as his overlord. You see that? Here's another depiction, basically implying that, once again, they're of the same mind. There's an allusion here to the quote-unquote Janus statue, with one face, the older face, pointing to the past, the younger face pointing to the future. They're both sharing the same brain, and they have higher level insight because they have the third eye. Their pineal gland is activated. You see that? The third eye there in the middle, the eye that they share. What they're implying is that they've both been illuminated and that Kobe Bryant is the apprentice to Phil Jackson.